I'm going to move along with the next speaker that will be joining us, and that is Art Sterritt. Let me just find what I have written here. Art Sterritt is the Executive Director of the Coastal First Nations Great Bear Initiative in Vancouver. The Coastal First Nations is an alliance of First Nations on British Columbia's north and central coast and Haida. The alliance works towards an ecologically and economically sustainable coast now known as the Great Bear Rainforest. Art, a member of the Gitgat First Nation, has more than 30 years of experience in the areas of Aboriginal rights, self-government, and community economic development. He's a prominent spokesperson for Defend Our Coast, which opposes plans to run tar sands pipelines through British Columbia. And he is also a well-known artist, sculptor, and goldsmith, and he traveled a very long way to be here with us, so thank you very much to Art.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate everybody coming out, and I'm honored that the local nations have welcomed me into their territories. I'm born Gitxsan, which basically Gitxsan means the people from the Skeena River. Xian means the Skeena. Born and raised Gitxsan, and grew up as a Tsimshian. And Tsimshian are the people who moved out of the Skeena River. And I moved to the coast of British Columbia about 45 years ago out of the upper Skeena. I found a pretty little princess down there, and she kept me. And we have 3 children and 2 more adopted children and 16 grandchildren, and they all live in the Great Bear Rainforest. And that's why I do what I do. My father and my uncle landed on the beaches of Normandy like so many Canadians. They weren't there on exactly D-Day, but they were there the day after. And my father's now 99 years old. He's still with us. My uncle has left. So my mother, on the other hand, was born not in Canada, but in Newfoundland at the time because it wasn't part of Canada. And my dad is a Gitxsan chief. He's the oldest one living in the Upper Skeena right now. I've been involved in all kinds of court cases from 45 years ago, the Calder case, which said that there is Aboriginal title in British Columbia, to the Delgamuukw case that told us what Aboriginal title was, to the Haida case where the Haida work in the organization that I'm with. We are 20,000 people in the Great Bear Initiative that extend from the top end of Vancouver Island to the BC-Alaska border. I do describe myself as an artist, although I'm on sabbatical doing some political work right now. I have house screens in the Grand Hall at the Canadian Museum of Civilization that I've painted. There's masks in there. There's masks in the Royal Ontario Museum that I've carved. I have totem poles all over the world. But I haven't been able to do that for a while because we seem to have a lot of other issues that we need to deal with. So I've been honored to become the spokesman for the Coastal First Nations, in particular around the Enbridge Northern Gateway Pipeline project. I'm going to give you a little bit of history of who we are, and I hope those of you that were here this morning don't get bored by it, because you've heard it all already. But Coastal First Nations came together about 10 years ago as a group of people negotiating treaties and having absolutely no success. So Canada was not giving a mandate to their negotiators, British Columbia wasn't, and we were just wasting our time and building up a whole bunch of debt. We decided at that time that all of the rights and title that we had gained over the last 45 or 50 years in court cases in British Columbia, where, by the way, there are very few treaties. Unlike the rest of Canada, east of the Rockies, which has all had treaties on it, the whole Northern Gateway Pipeline area in British Columbia, there are no treaties. And so we have gone to court over the past 4 or 5 decades to prove that, and we've proven it. And court cases like Haida, we have won court cases that said that you can't go and do something in our territory without talking to us. And if you're going to have an effect on us, you may very well have to compensate us. Or if it's going to be really critical, if you are in danger of wiping out our rights and our title, then you might not even be allowed to do it according to the Constitution of Canada. because nobody has the right to erase our rights and our title in British Columbia except us. And not even, we actually don't even have the right to do that unless we get approval from all of our constituents. So Coastal First Nations came together a decade ago, and we have been working together. We have signed government-to-government agreements with British Columbia. The first thing that we did, though, as a group, is we began to work together, and when we did that, coming from working in isolation as individual First Nations, we gained a new kind of power, a kind of a political power as a group of First Nations. And our plan was to breathe life into our rights, because nobody else was doing it. We figured we'd have about a 50-50 chance of affecting change within our region by coming together. But when we came together, the environmental community and the industry were negotiating what to do with our land. And we didn't think that that was quite right, so we went after the environmental community and said, hey, you either do it our way or get the heck out of our territory. And they said, no, we're quite willing to work with you. We recognize that you have rights, we recognize that you have title, and we recognize you as a government. And we thought, well, that was pretty easy. Now we've had a marriage between a very powerful group of people who can lobby all over the world to stop buying forest products and mining products and all kinds of things. It's a very different kind of power. And they can exert that in the United States, and they can exert that in Europe. And we've married that with our Aboriginal title and rights in British Columbia. And at that point in time, we figured that we had about a 75% chance of affecting change within our geographic region. But we took a look behind us, and here's the industry, who in the meantime were wanting to log and do different things. And we basically thought, well, let's check and see if these guys want to be a part of this, because now we're a pretty formidable force, and they're not going to have much success unless they work with us. So we went and we talked to industry, and they said, by all means. They put their hands up and said, we're with you, we support you, we recognize you as a government, and we want to help do a plan for what happens in this region as well. We thought, well, if it's that easy, how about the unions? And the union said, by all means, we agree to the principles that you folks have put forward, and we want to be a part of it as well. And we looked at it, and there was barely anybody left out of the tent except for the municipalities in the region. So we called all of them in, and all of those municipalities agreed to work with us to come up with a plan for what became known as the Great Bear Rainforest. When we did that, in 2001, all of us together developed a general protocol, and we went to the provincial government and said, hey guys, we have a plan for the area, a way to rationalize everything in there. And if you agree to it, then we're going to go ahead and do it. And the provincial government said, everybody seems to be in your room, so we agree with you, we'll do it. So we signed the first ever government-to-government agreement in British Columbia in 2001. And that really breathed life. That breathed life into a whole different process in British Columbia. And I'm going to shorten it up a little bit here, but in essence what happened is we did a plan that determined what the economy was going to look like in the region, that it was going to be based on the natural capital that comes out of there. However many trees grow in a year that could be sustained, that's how much we would cut. However many salmon we could fish in a year sustainably, that's how much we would fish. So all of those resources, halibut and black cod and crab and shrimp and everything that's in the region, all got put into this plan. And we decided to work together on that. We ended up down the road a little ways, and all of a sudden comes a proposal from a company in Alberta to put a pipeline right smack dab into the middle of this plan that all of us on the coast had arrived at. So here we are. It's not just the First Nations. This is everybody that lives in the region. All the corporations, all the unions, all the municipalities had agreed to a plan. And along comes Enbridge Northern Gateway and says, we're putting a pipeline here, and we're going to run ships through your territory. And we said, well, we're not so sure about that. We looked around, we did some studies. We didn't dismiss them out of hand. We didn't dismiss them out of hand. We said, we're not so sure we're going to let you in here. And they actually said to us at that time, they said, if you guys don't agree with this, we won't do it. We said, oh boy, this is a pretty good company. And so we went out and did some studies. We looked in Valdez, Alaska, and we found out what happened when there was an oil spill up there. And a few months later, after we began this engagement, there was this monster blowout in the Gulf of Mexico, and we went and looked at what happened with an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. And just after we started to lose a little bit of traction, there was a spill in the Kalamazoo. And it was a pretty well a foregone conclusion that what Enbridge was proposing to introduce to our environment, the plan that we had for sustainability, was a bomb that could destroy everything that we stood for. And so we declared a ban on tanker traffic in the Great Bear Rainforest. When we declared that, we thought about the lessons that we had learned in Alaska and the lessons that we had learned in the Gulf of Mexico. And what we learned from the indigenous people and the local people, the Cajuns, and who, by the way, are the Acadians that got booted out of eastern Canada, the Cajuns, they told us, if you ever allow oil into your territory, they will change your culture. They will wipe out everything that you stand for. They have no conscience. And that's what's happening. The Cajun culture is being eroded. The Homa Nation culture is being eroded in the Gulf. And that BP spill just about destroyed it completely. And there was not much that they could do about it. So they said, what you have to do when you go home is you have to get beyond the 20,000 people that you represent. You have to go out and get all of the people in British Columbia. You have to gain enough political power that you can affect change. And so that's what we began to do. So we began to gather intelligence about what was going on in the region. We already had all of the people in the region who took it personal that somebody was trying to destroy what they were doing. We needed to extend that to the rest of British Columbia. And so we began a campaign of moving around British Columbia, talking to people. And at this point in time, we have support now from 80% of British Columbians to stop the Northern Gateway pipeline. With you, I hope, as a lesson about what you're going to need to do to stop Line 9. You're going to have to personalize it. That's what happened in British Columbia. It became personal. We have a campaign out right now called Defend Our Coast. It's about all British Columbians coming together to defend our coast. And we're having a great deal of success. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke at a conference or a rally in Victoria. The legislature wasn't even meeting, but we were on the lawn of the legislature. And we'd expected a couple thousand people to show up. We had 5,000 people show up at a rally. And basically, I asked them one question. You guys might have seen it on the news. I said, if Harper approves Northern Gateway, who's going to lay down in front of the bulldozers and stop this project? And to a man, woman, and child, they said, we will. And that was heard across the country. Not only that, I have had now another 10,000 pledges online from people saying they will be there with us to stop this pipeline from going ahead when they try to move it ahead. I want to close with one comment. There's a little bit more going on than this. Really, I mentioned earlier on that Enbridge had said to us, if you guys don't like this project, we'll go away. When we decided we didn't like it and we told them, they said, oh, you're not the only Indians. They said it this way, you're not the only Indians in British Columbia, there's others. They might agree. So we then canvassed all of the rest of First Nations in British Columbia. Union of BC Indian Chiefs and the First Nations Summit represent 202 tribes, and they both opposed the Northern Gateway pipeline. And they said, when we went to Enbridge and told them that, they said, well, there's non-native people there. What about the municipalities? We went to the Union of BC Municipalities, and for the past 2 years, they have passed a motion. All of the Union of BC Municipalities have passed a motion opposing Northern Gateway. That should be the end of the story. There's nobody in British Columbia who wants the project. So what's Enbridge's answer? Well, Canada seems to want it. Stephen Harper wants it. Peter Kent, Joe Oliver. We're still game on. Well, how the hell are you going to do this based on the fact that nobody in this province wants you? Well, what do? You begin to undermine environmental legislation, you change the Fisheries Act, you do FIBA, you do everything you can to set a framework in place to take us on when you finally approve it. What did they do? They put a panel in place that had the authority to reject this project, a joint review panel. And they changed the law so that that panel no longer had the right to do that. That right went to Cabinet. And they said Cabinet's going to approve it. So we're getting ready with legal cases, political cases, and direct action. So those are the various steps that we're going to have to take. Let me close with one final comment. What I've learned over the last number of years, and I was amazed to arrive at this conclusion, but really what's happened here is a whole different change in our society. And what we have got is the richest industry that has ever hit planet Earth is trying to take over control of our country. We have oil. There is no other industry that has as much resources, as much money. They took the US government to court and got classified with human rights. And what that means in the US is they can spend as much bloody money as they want to get the party elected that they like, or to get legislation, or to lobby, or do whatever they want. Guess what's going on in Canada right now? That's exactly the same thing they're doing. They're going after our legislation. They're bribing people. They have no conscience. They have no conscience about it. We have a tar sands that currently is owned 47% by foreign corporations and countries. And we want to turn more of it over to them. I think it's about time that British Columbians, Ontarians, Quebec, all of Canada came up with a plan. That's what we did in the Great Bear Rainforest. We need a plan for what we do with our energy that meets our needs before it meets the needs of the rest of the world. So thank you very much.